Hey Steve, how's it going?
Hey Liz, good.
Thanks for agreeing to talk with me
Of
about
course.
mentoring. So, I want to ask you a few questions. Let's start off. How do you ask someone to be a mentor?
It's a great question. I've mentored a lot and I've been mentored. So I've been on the giving and the receiving end of it. And it really kind of depends on the context. In some cases, a lot of my mentors have been one cup of coffee. And I've gotten out of it what I was looking for. Sometimes it's a cup of coffee as a tryout for a longer term relationship. Sometimes you go to somebody and say, I really need you to help me for a long period. But what I found is that the best way to do that is to just tell them why you're interested and what it is about them that made you interested. Sometimes you don't even realize it's a mentoring relationship or a mentoring conversation. My first mentor probably was when I was 17. And I didn't realize until last year when he died and I spoke at his remembrance. I thought, my God, Jack Burwell, this guy who hired me for my first and favorite job, was my first mentor. And he encouraged me to apply for a job I really wasn't qualified for. He was affirming. He was always there for advice. He was really helpful, and I think I was receptive without realizing it. But it was definitely an eye opener for me to see that mentoring can come in a lot of different forms.
Great. So, how do you pick a mentor?
Um, I have looked for people who have qualities that I admire, or sometimes it's experiences. Obviously, in the Pathways database, we have a lot of details about what people have done. But you ask around if you don't know them. You ask some of the people who help guide Pathways about things that they might look for in qualities. Great example for me is probably the most consequential mentor I've ever had. A guy named Bud Veith, who was the chairman of Arnold and Porter, where I practiced for many years, transformed it into a major national firm. And what interested me in you asking Bud for advice, which I went to for about a job I had turned down, was I was looking for somebody who had figured out how to really show the human qualities that he had in a major grown-up job. And he was warm, caring, but very firm, very intelligent, obviously, but just had that style about him that showed me you could be a human being and practice law. Are you listening, recent law graduate?
I'm listening.
And Bud was that, and he was very gentle in my anguish about the job, and that led to a couple of years ago we would get together off and on. A couple of years after I first went to him, he introduced me to a potential client who hired me as my first life sciences client. Major impact on my life. I became a life sciences lawyer for the last 15, 16 years of my career, and it was the right move for me. It was really a career change without changing jobs. And when I retired, Bud was still around. He was in his 90s. And I went to him and I said, I want you to understand, you changed my life in two ways. One, you took me into life sciences, which I would never otherwise have done. Two, you showed me that there's a side that I can show of myself and be a lawyer, an effective lawyer in a large law firm. And I was grateful for that. It's just a quick aside. One of my mentees, I mentored a lot at the firm, just became partner, and she's on social media and she gets interviewed in articles. She's one of these top lawyer types. She talks about mentoring and she emphasizes that quality, the human side, to have fun, be yourself, be willing to put yourself out there a little bit. And it kind of gave me the chills because I don't think she ever met Bud, but it
Mhm.
felt like she was channeling Bud, and maybe I helped her do that. And that felt pretty good.
That's great. Um, so, how do you, what value do you really find from being a mentor, and how do you think that young people can benefit from being a mentor?
Yeah, I think everybody should be a mentor. Um, First of all, being a mentor is a selfish act because mentors get more out of the mentoring, I think, than the mentees do, or in Pathways seekers. It's just a great experience. But more substantively, I think you learn about yourself that if you listen to what you say to the person that you're mentoring, you learn what your values are, and you find out what you care about. And as you listen to yourself articulate the things that matter to you to that person, you realize, gee, maybe that's advice I should listen to for myself. So it's a great experience, and you appreciate both sides of it, I think, that much more.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for taking the time to give us your advice, and
My
look forward to
pleasure.
hearing more from you in the future.
And quick advertisement, you can learn more about mentoring on our blog and the resource map, both of which have lots more information about mentoring. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.